Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. Liverpool are taking on West Bromwich Albion this weekend in the Premier League in the Saturday 12:30 kickoff in a game that pretty much all of us are just looking at as the one before the Champions League semi-final. It's basically just a game that all Liverpool fans want to get out of the way with no fuss whatsoever, without anyone getting injured, without anyone getting exhausted or anything like that, so we can move on to bigger and more exciting things with that home game against Roma on Tuesday night. However, it's still a Premier League game. It's still 3 points up for grabs, and we are now at the business end of the season where Liverpool have got the chance to secure themselves another wonderful season of European Cup football for next year. So, while we are significantly ahead of Chelsea, I think our lead is still 7 points over them at the moment. It's still an important game. It's still one we have to win. And I think we do want to get that top four race wrapped up as soon as we possibly can, because the last thing we want is for it to be nervy and just nerve-shreddingly painful like it was at the end of last season when it did go down to the final day and Liverpool did have to slog through quite a few results. So not the game that we really want. We all want to move on to the Champions League semi-final. We're all excited for that. But Liverpool have still got to play this weekend, and West Brom represent a very interesting opponent for this game. Obviously, they played against Manchester United and won last weekend, got their first win in absolutely ages with Darren Moore coming in. They seem to have really been fired up by him, and I think it just seems like there's this kind of thing that always seems to happen to teams that are pretty much relegated or are in a situation where they are desperately looking for wins to drag themselves out. And they kind of get to that point where it's almost so much of a foregone conclusion that they're going to go down that they just suddenly start playing better because all the pressure is lifted off of the players. They no longer play within themselves. They express themselves. That is the word that Darren Moore, the West Brom manager, was using after the Man U game, was that he felt like his players felt like they were finally free to express themselves. And that showed with the way they played. Obviously they defended very well, and you saw the kind of backs to the wall performance with a bank of six and then three midfielders in front of them and then just one fella hanging around up front. You saw that at various points in the game, but when West Brom looked to attack, they committed bodies forward. They weren't just hoofing it forward to one bloke and getting him to hold the ball up for a bit and see what happens. They were getting wingers going forward. They were getting strikers going forward. One or two of the midfielders were coming to help out the attack as well. So there's a real sort of desire to play in West Brom at the moment, which is a little bit odd given what we've seen from them so far this season, but I think will certainly make it an interesting game for Liverpool this weekend, because obviously I think it's actually going to end up being a little bit like the Crystal Palace game, in that we were expecting a kind of backs to the wall performance. We were expecting 90 minutes of Liverpool attempting to break down a parked bus, and what happened in the end was Palace actually ended up giving Liverpool a pretty decent game. And I think some of it is down to the fact that they're playing at home as well. They'll want to impress their fans, especially in this current situation where they feel like relegation is almost inevitable, but they want to at least prove to their fans that they are still kind of going in the right direction, almost going into next season. They'll want to give them a good performance. They'll want to give them something to shout and sing about. And I think that's kind of what happened with Crystal Palace, where they just really gave Liverpool a game, took the game to us, and when they needed to, they still did the whole park bus thing, but they were committing men forward, they were going for the attacks, and they were going to get out there and score some goals. So I think that's the kind of thing that Liverpool can expect from this weekend, and it means that hopefully, despite the fact it is West Brom, and like I said, there will be some bus parking in there, it will still be a nice, enjoyable game, as it always is when Liverpool are playing. So team news going into the match: Jurgen Klopp did his press conference today. There's a little bit of injury news going on. Dejan Lovren has been a little bit of a doubt for a while. There were a lot of nerves. A few of us were sweating over whether or not he was going to be injured for a longer period between now and the end of the season. He obviously played last weekend against Bournemouth. Something went on. I think it was during the Bournemouth game he came off with some back twinge or something like that. It now seems like Lovren's fine. He's back in training, which is a big boost for Liverpool. Joe Gomez, another big boost, is back in training as well, which is fantastic to see, coming back from his injury that he sustained on international duty. Nathaniel Clyne is unfortunately injured again, which is a shame because he played so well in that Merseyside derby. He looked really sharp. He looked like he was going to be a viable option for Liverpool, but unfortunately he is injured again. I mean, it's getting to the point where we're starting to wonder where Nathaniel Clyne's career at Liverpool is going, but for now, not available for this game. Elsewhere, no real updates really. Matip, Lallana and Emre Can all look like they're going to be out at least for the rest of the season, or they might make comebacks for the last few games, but they're definitely not available for this game. And I think the most notable thing to take away from Klopp's press conference was the fact that he said he will not be resting players for this game. And I think he's got it right there, because there were so many people after the Bournemouth game saying that they expected Salah to be rested for this game. They expected Firmino and Mane to be given time on the bench to just rest and recuperate and stuff like that. And I thought that's not really the right way to go into it, because I mean, when you think about the incredible performance that Liverpool put in against Manchester City in their first leg, they played a Saturday 12:30 kickoff before that as well, and a similar game with that away against Crystal Palace. And Liverpool played very well at the end of the day in both games. You know, they weren't great in the Crystal Palace game, but they came away with the result, and then they were absolutely fantastic in that first leg against Manchester City. So I think, you know, there's sometimes a call for rotation, and I can see absolutely why Jurgen Klopp did it in the first half of the season. But the difference there was that he wasn't rotating for that particular period. He was rotating for the foreseeable future. He was looking ahead to like that congested December, January, February period and thinking that's where it will hit us if we don't rotate earlier on in the season. Whereas now there's only a few weeks left until the summer break. And obviously the World Cup is in there, but there'll be breaks before the World Cup. And during that actual tournament, most of our players either won't play or they'll only play a maximum of about 3 or 4 games. So you can almost afford to burn your players out and just basically cross your fingers that that will happen at the end of the season rather than beforehand, and that these players can just push themselves through all the way to the end, hopefully through to a Champions League final as well. And then we can think about maybe just letting them go and recuperate over the summer holidays. So I don't think Liverpool should rest players for this game. And like I said, still an important 3 points up for grabs. I know the Champions League is the focus now and the league looks relatively wrapped up. But like I said, we want to get that league wrapped up as soon as we possibly can and ensure that we have Champions League football for next season. So here is how I think Liverpool are actually going to line up for the game. I reckon we're going to go with Karius in goal. No surprises there. I think the back two is, the centre-back pairing is going to be Van Dijk and Klavan. I mean, I said that we don't really want to rest players, but I think with Lovren coming back from injury, you don't really need to risk him for this game. You know, it's perfectly fine. Klavan isn't exactly a bad player to come in and deputise. We want to have Klavan available if there are any more injury problems with Dejan Lovren or potentially, God forbid, Van Dijk between now and the end of the season. So we always need to have Klavan fit and on standby. So I think this is a good game to play him in. And I just think Lovren, you know, rest him and make sure that he's available for the Champions League tie, because we do need him for that game. So I think Van Dijk and Klavan as the centre-back pairing. Then I think it's going to be Gomez and Alberto Moreno as the full-backs. I mean, I'm kind of being hypocritical here because I said I didn't want to see Liverpool make changes. But I think Gomez, you know, Trent Alexander-Arnold, young player, 19 years old. We still need to manage his fitness. And what we were doing earlier on in the season with rotating him and Joe Gomez seemed to work well in ensuring that Alexander-Arnold never suffered from burnout or anything like that. And obviously Gomez, with Klein now injured again, we need to make sure that he is up to speed and he is available as a backup for Liverpool. So I think you start Gomez in this game. And then Robertson maybe deserves a little bit of a rest. And Alberto Moreno, not exactly a bad player to deputise. You know, he had a really, really good start to the season. It's just a shame that the injury kind of stopped his momentum and has kind of killed it between then and where we are now. So I think Moreno, he deserves a game. And again, not a massive drop-off in quality. The midfield, I think we're going to go with Wijnaldum, Oxlade-Chamberlain and Milner, just because I think Henderson is a little bit injury prone. You know, he doesn't always start consistent amounts of games. Obviously, that's not what you want from your captain, but with the game against Roma, I think this is one where you kind of have to think, okay, it's not a huge drop-off to bring out Henderson and put Wijnaldum in that number 6 role. I also think Wijnaldum, having done pretty well in the number 6 role against Everton, these are the kind of games where he will play best in that role, the games where he has the ability to drive forward or to create things in front of him with, you know, his passing ability and his ability to play the ball and dribble as well. So I think this is actually quite a good game to have Gini Wijnaldum in that number 6 role and then Ox and Milner either side, because, you know, they're good at football. And then the front three, this is where you want no players being rested. I think you want Mane, Salah and Firmino, the absolute deadly trio, ready to rip up another Premier League defence. So while I'm expecting West Brom to give us a decent game, I mean, they showed that they can do that at Old Trafford last weekend, I still think that this is a game that Liverpool, you know, we should be walking away with an easy 3 points from this one. This should be a win, absolutely nailed on for Liverpool, and here are 3 reasons why I think they'll be able to get it. First of all, Mohamed Salah. I mean, it sounds so lazy to just say that Mohamed Salah is a reason that Liverpool will win the game, but He is. I mean, he scores in pretty much every single game he starts. He's showing no signs of stopping on that front, and he's very, very good at breaking the deadlock for Liverpool as well. I mean, I don't know if you've all seen the chart, which basically compares the game state goals, i.e., you know, what situation the game is in terms of the scoreline when a player scores, with Mo Salah this season and Luis Suarez in the 2013 to 14 season. I think half of Mo Salah's goals, or somewhere near that number, it might be 15 or something like that, have been goals that have put Liverpool in front in games, and that's so important to have the kind of player, especially in a game like this where if West Brom do look to defend, we might struggle to break them down. You need the kind of player who is going to break the deadlock early and make sure that the game doesn't become any more difficult than it needs to be, because that's one of the problems Man United had. You know, West Brom started confidently in that game at Old Trafford, and the longer it took for Man United to really get something going, the more confidence West Brom brought into their game, the better they played and the more they threatened Man United, and the better they defended at the other end of the pitch. So I think it's important that Liverpool have players like Salah in the side who are able to unpick those defences really early on, like he did against Watford and kind of like Mane did against Bournemouth as well. And second of all, kind of staying on the subject of Salah and Mane, like I said, West Brom do look to commit players forward when they attack. We saw that against Manchester United where, like I said, it wasn't just a lone front man and maybe one winger that was supporting them or something like that. When West Brom looked to get forward, they were piling the midfielders, the wingers, the strikers. They were all getting involved and looking to score goals. And while that could cause Liverpool problems and it could make our defence, you know, come under a bit more pressure than we'd like, it will leave spaces open at the other end. And, you know, West Brom, they're organised. Their defence will be set up to avoid being caught out by Liverpool's counter-attack. But I think one of the most important things about the way Liverpool counter-attack and the way they press teams is that they always know the right moment to turn it on. They always know the right moment to just absolutely go at teams. So I think as soon as Liverpool smell blood, as soon as they see that West Brom might have ever so slightly dropped off, ever so slightly lost their focus, or have just left one tiny gap in their defence anywhere on the pitch, every single one of those players in the Liverpool team will go at the same time and look to attack those spaces and look to attack those weaknesses. So I think if West Brom are just looking to give their fans a little bit of spectacle and maybe come away with a nice big scalp, especially after last weekend, then I'd back Liverpool's attack to exploit that to the max with some gorgeous counter-attacking football. And again, on a similar subject, you know, West Brom's back line, obviously very nice and organised, but I'm not sure Man United really tested it that well, if I'm perfectly honest. I watched the highlights of that game, and the way Man U tried to force chances was very, very sort of crude. It was all about, you know, West Brom were forcing Man United into wide areas, so basically all Man United did was just go out wide, cross the ball into the box, and that's exactly what West Brom wanted them to do. They played into West Brom's hands, Man U did, because West Brom have got big defenders. They've got committed defenders who will win every single one of those headers whenever the ball comes into the box. And obviously the only time that they didn't win it, there's a brilliant save from Ben Foster to stop Lukaku from scoring a header. So that's the kind of thing that I wouldn't expect Liverpool to do. You know, if Liverpool are getting the ball out to the byline and whipping it in for crosses onto like Firmino's head or Mane's head or Salah's head, it's just not the kind of thing you can see happening, because Liverpool aren't that kind of team. We don't have those physical presences in the box, so we will look to find other ways to break West Brom down. So I'm hoping that we've just got a little bit more attacking intelligence and attacking creativity and imagination going forward than that Man U attack has, and hopefully that'll mean that we can break their defence down. So that is all for today's video. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. I'll be back tomorrow afternoon with a post-match video after we've hopefully beaten West Brom. Until then, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button there if you're new around here. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days as well. Don't forget to follow at LSU Focus TV on Twitter, and stay tuned tomorrow for the post-match reaction. Bye for now.